I am finally ready to discuss my thoughts on The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, the movie. Let's get into it. Hola mi gente, MsMalcolmHughes here. Welcome back. I know my outfit is a little interesting, but everyone in Panam dress is interesting, so we're gonna keep it going. Today we are going to discuss the book versus adaptation of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. It's taken me a while because I really wanted to process my thoughts and feelings. The way we'll go over it today is that we'll start with a general overview of the movie. We'll talk about my likes, we'll talk about my dislikes, and whether or not I think it was worth the time. So, the movie, or even though the book, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is a prequel to The Hunger Games that we all know and love, and we get a young Coriolanus Snow. It really sets up who he will be as a person. We learn about his familial struggles. We learn about his struggles dealing with being at a level of comfort when his father was alive and security, and then having that reduced once his father is killed during the war, and him and his family face a different level of poverty, even severe poverty during war times. We also have other characters. We have Lucy Gray Bard, of course. We have Sejanus Plinth. We have the Grandmam. We have Tigress. We have a number of characters. We have Dean Highbottom. We have Dr. Gall. But this is Coriolanus Snow's story, and that is who we focus on for most of the book, even though these other characters come in and get their own time. Same thing with the movie. This is very much the Coriolanus Snow show. I do have my full review of the book up on the channel, so definitely check that out. I also have a theory video, so you can check that out as well. So I won't spend too much time really hashing or rehashing the book. There's a review for that. But I really want to get into what I liked and what I disliked about the film versus the book, which I preferred. We're gonna start with my likes are shorter, so we're gonna start with my dislikes. All right, so here are some changes that I disliked. So in my notes, I have the emphasis placed on the connection that Coriolanus had with his father, which wasn't the case. He missed the security that he provided, and there's a disconnect from his mother in the movie. And so in the movie, we do see a little bit of the compact, the rose compact that his mother would carry, but it's of significant more weight in the book. We get more background on his mother, her kindness that she showed him, and really values that he's trying to hold on to. We get a little bit about his father, but mostly in the sense that his father was someone who protected them. His life was different when his father was alive, but he also feared his father. So it wasn't as if they had a great connection. He does have his compass, but the compass doesn't come up until the end in the book. It's always like it's this tug of war between, will he be this kind individual, or will he be this heartless individual that does what needs to get done to attain his goals? And in the book, there's much more of a tug of war. In the movie, it always seems as if he's leaning more so toward his father. And there's not that same character arc that we see in the book. So I didn't really love that about the movie. I actually feel like it did a disservice to Coriolanus Snow, the character, who we didn't get to see really evolve, in my opinion, in the movie. Another thing I have in my notes is that Dean Highbottom telling Coriolanus what his issue is with him pretty early on. In the book, that's more of a mystery. It isn't even Dean Highbottom himself who eventually reveals this information to Coriolanus. We'll talk about that and who that is in another moment. But I did feel as if the actors did a really good job of depicting that tension of like that dislike between Dean Highbottom and Coriolanus. However, I feel as if in the movie, just like the book, it was always tense, but I guess the book, we had more time to see the evolution. We had more opportunities to understand the resentment. We got to see it play out in more ways, and I don't feel like we really got that in the movie. And don't get me wrong, I understand that some things have to be lost to the movie in order to meet time constraints, and that everything isn't transferable. Some things have to be dramatized for the movie, but I did think we lost some things. But in my likes, you will see that we also gained some things. So the person who actually tells Coriolanus what Dean Highbottom's issue is with him is Pluribus. And Pluribus actually doesn't show up in the movie at all. And I feel like that actually took away a layer of understanding Coriolanus's pain. And I say that because Pluribus is really the guy who oversees the black market. He used to own and run like a jazz club, but once things got hard, he was able to get a lot of resources that people would need early on. And so this is where Coriolanus and his family have gone in order to trade things in of value, in order to get the food and sustenance that they needed to try to see themselves through the challenging war times. And this is the person who eventually writes to him when he's in District 12 to inform him that he figured out what the issue was between his father and Dean Highbottom, and why Dean Highbottom holds this grudge against him. And I just enjoyed that a lot more. I enjoyed that storyline. I enjoyed the mysteriousness of it throughout the entire book. You know, sometimes you can really guess what the issue is, but I didn't guess correctly here, like what the issue was. I thought obviously it was going to be about Coriolanus Snow's mother. I thought they both wanted the same woman. But no, it was the fact that Dean Highbottom had a drunken night and he put forth this idea of the Hunger Games as revenge on the districts. And eventually Snow's father went and presented that, and it became the Hunger Games. And he's like, I didn't want this. I was drunk. Like, and so now he's living out this horrible reality of where they're punishing the districts, and he has to partake every year. And he's heralded as the creator of the Hunger Games. And this is just like something that disgusts him and causes him much distress to the point that he is self-medicating. Also, I didn't love Tigress's character in the movies. Loved her a lot more in the books. I like the actress who played Tigress, but she was a lot more judgmental in the movie. In the book, she really is on Snow's side. She really is, I guess, to a certain degree, self-sacrificing herself to ensure that Coriolanus is able to get whatever he needs so that their family can achieve grandmother's dream of being back on top in a position of comfort within Panem. And here, and maybe it's just the way that things end, like, so in the ending of this movie, we do see Snow come back, and we do get to see him be in a position of authority. He's back in school. He's on the trajectory that he wanted. He's on the right track. And Tigress is judgmental of the moves that he's making. However, in the book, that doesn't happen. She's actually really proud of him for the things that he's doing. And I don't think she knows the extent of how he's manipulating the Plinth family in order to remain on top and get the things that he needs. And I just feel like that was an interesting character change. I didn't really love it. I could understand the directors and other creators behind the movie really wanting us to understand that Coriolanus is going down a dark path that others don't support, but that just wasn't the case. All right, another character is Sejanus Plinth. He was unbearable in the movies, and I really feel like that took away from us being able to empathize with him as a character and really feel the huge loss of him once he is hung. And so in the books, he's much more of a subtle character in his frustrations with the capital. He's vocal, obviously, but he knows that to a certain extent he has to go along to get along. And he's just much more calm in nature, like his personality. But in the book, in the movie, he is always on 10. He's always, this is wrong, I don't like it. He's very vocal. There's not that opportunity for us to really empathize with him because he's so obnoxiously anti-everything. And he's not wrong. He's correct in his stance. The Hunger Games are deplorable. What we're doing to the districts are wrong. What we're doing to the districts is wrong. However, in the movie, his temperament was just distracted from that. And I don't think the actor himself did a bad job. I just feel like the depiction of the character didn't allow for us to have that same level of empathy or sympathy towards his plight. And then also when we get to District 12, Sejanus's character, everything is just compressed in such a way that it doesn't have time to breathe. And I think that that storyline needed that. Okay, Lucy Gray Bard. So Lucy Gray is a big character. Again, obviously this is Coriolanus' story. I think it's important to say, because I had a friend who went to see the movie and they were very much like, I thought she had a bigger role. And I'm like, she doesn't. And even in the book, she is there. She's obviously the tribute. However, this is the backstory of Coriolanus. No. In the movie, I kind of feel like she was forgettable. The singer obviously had a beautiful voice, and I think the actress did a good job. But I don't think Lucy Gray shined the way she does in the book. It felt forced. Like in the book, it's a very natural. We all know a super charismatic person who turns that up in order to play on the emotions of others and benefit from it. I didn't feel that same level of connectivity to the film. As far as the actor who plays Coriolanus Snow, it was cool. I discussed it with friends and we kind of talked about how, you know, sometimes in acting, so much of it is not vocal. So much of it is facial, like facial responses, or we see it in body movement. And I just think that we didn't always get that here. So some of the subtlety of like, what is he thinking? How is this impacting him? I don't think we get to see that. And also because we don't get to see that, and because so much of the internal voice that we get in the novel isn't there, when he does have these big emotions, it doesn't feel authentic, or it doesn't hit the same way. Okay, this is minor, but I think it shifted things. So the Plinth Prize isn't something that's always been there. And the movie is as if it has always existed, when in reality it's a scholarship from the academy that they're in. And Coriolanus just doesn't qualify for that because he keeps getting in trouble, or he won't qualify for it. And the Plinth Prize becoming something that exists is very much a way for him to be able to go to university outside of the influence of Dean Highbottom. And so I thought that that mattered, because it shifts Coriolanus's motivations toward Lucy Bard in the game. And I don't think we always get to see that in the film to the same degree. All right, we're coming close to the end of my issues and we'll get to my likes. So I didn't like the story of Clemencia. Like, we see Clemencia get bitten by the snake, but we do not see that transformation that we get in the book of like her becoming a snake-like character herself, and the fear they're in, how that impacts Coriolanus, how that actually solidifies his fear of Dr. Gall. And I think that that was needed so we can understand just the full level of derangement that Dr. Gall has. We needed that. All right, and my last dislike between the movie and the book is that we don't get to see the funerals, and we don't get to see the severity of how some of the tributes who die are treated. And I think that matters, but I don't think it takes away from the movie, and here's why. I think it matters because it further solidifies how much Panem, the capital, hates those from the districts, right? And just doesn't regard them as equal in any way. So I think that that matters. I don't think it takes away from the movie because I think that comes across in other ways. So that's like my last dislike, but not a big one. And now to my likes. I liked the Viola Davis. I think she did a great job. Peter Dinklage, I also think did a good job. The individual who played Flickerman did a good job, even though their character was over the top all the time. The character is also over the top in the book. And so I think they did a really good job of encapsulating that Panem energy of excessiveness in all things and disregard and disrespect for human life. Yes. So I think that was well done. Obviously not yes in support of that, but yes in the depiction of these things. I thought they were going to remove this from the movie, and I was really glad they didn't, so I was happy to see it. I like that they decided to keep in the visualization of cannibalism and people during the wartime being so poor that they were actually like chopping off body parts of those who had died in order to take it home and use it as meat. And I think that that matters because we need to see from whence Panem has evolved. We need to see how dark of times there were. And we also need to see, one, just how that motivates their rage, but also just the excessiveness that we see down the line, just to see like all of it from the darkest days to the most affluent times. So I talked about this in my review, my book review. I really liked the line that was so well done of, do you hear that? The sound of snow falling. So I thought that Dean Highbottom in the film, I thought his depiction or recital of that line was good, but I did feel like it lacked some of the punch from the book, right? Because in the movie, I feel like they try to overemphasize it, and I don't think we really had the build-up that we needed between Dean Highbottom and Coriolanus in the movie. So when Dean Highbottom says, do you hear that? Finally, the sound of snow falling. It was like, you're trying to oversell it, when in the book it just came across as much more subtle, much more devilish in a way, because we've seen this long drawn out journey that began with the father and continues with the son. And in the book, it's just like, do you hear that? The sound of snow falling. It's a lot more cynical. It has more punch, and I just enjoyed it more from the book. Another thing that I liked is that I feel like they kept the gruesomeness of the games in the movie, so we can really understand. Though they changed a lot of those scenes, I did feel as if it mattered, right? For them to keep the gruesomeness, for the people watching the film to really understand how dark these times are and how brutal the games were. So I thought that was good. Another thing I liked is that, and this is in the book and the movie, this all lays the foundation for like Coriolanus using poison in the future to solve his problems. We see him use it twice here to get rid of 2 individuals. Well, we see him use it on Dean Highbottom in the end, but also he gives it to Lucy Gray to use in the games. And so we get to see that early foundation of him understanding that poison solves a lot of his issues as far as moving people out of his way. And the last thing I liked is Lucy Gray's disappearance in the end. So in the movie, it was much more evident that she survived. It seems as if she's been hit, but not severely. She doesn't fall down. He still doesn't find her. But in the book, it's much more ambiguous. We don't know, right? In the book, we question whether or not Coriolanus is sane. We question whether or not he's sane in the sense that it's unclear if she's actually out to get him. It's unclear if she set these traps for him. We don't know this. It could all be coincidence. It could be that a piece of her garment had ripped and that's what he found. It could be that a snake was just in the woods and isn't a snake that she had planted in order to bite him. And so I liked both depictions because we don't know. We just don't know, right? We do see him follow steps that eventually disappear, which goes along with the ballad that she's named after. So I did like that depiction. Oh, I have one more thing that I really, really disliked. I disliked Sejanus and Coriolanus's relationship throughout the film. And I particularly did not like Coriolanus's reaction to Sejanus being hung. Like I said, I just don't think we had the time to have that emotional involvement and connection between them play out the way that we needed it to mature and to really understand how difficult of a decision it was for Coriolanus to turn him in and what all of that means. And we also don't get to see how much Coriolanus uses that to manipulate Sejanus's family in order to fund him. He basically becomes their son and they fund his whole life. It's wild. The book has much more of that manipulative nature that we know Snow to be known for, and how he is still charismatic even though he is a disturbing character in the later Hunger Games, and we get to see that here and we didn't get that in the movie. So that's a big one that I also wanted to point out. But overall, I thought movie was okay. I didn't really enjoy it as much as I had wanted to. And I also had, again, a friend who went to see it who hadn't read the book, who also felt like there was just a lot missing. Like there was just emotional aspects missing that needed to have been there. And so they felt, they hadn't read the book, but they felt as if there was lack there. And so I thought it was okay, right? Like, okay. Like I wouldn't rush to see it again. I would probably check it out if it came on TV and I was going through and I was like, oh, let me watch the entire series. That's how I would do it. But do I recommend it? If you're a fan of the Hunger Games, it couldn't hurt. But if you are not a fan and you're just like, oh, let me check it out and see what it's about, I don't think it's necessary, and I don't think it adds much to the franchise as is. So that is my take on this. I hope you all enjoyed this video. As always, please drop your comments down below. Let me know your experience with the movie or the book and what your thoughts are. Also, please don't forget to subscribe and like this video and share it so that others could find it. As always, I am MsMalcolmHughes, one who believes that books are sometimes better than people. And until the next one, please remember to give time, to be kind to each other, and to have the very best day of your life on purpose. Peace. Odabo. Adios. Ciao.